You know, to hear New Jersey Governor Chris Christie tell it, Rob Astorino's a lost cause. No way in heck the Republican challenger to New York Governor Andrew Cuomo has any chance of winning, so Christie says he ain't helping. As chairman of the National Republican Governors Association, Christie's refused to offer Astorino any financial support, even though other prominent Republicans, including Rick Perry and Bobby Jindal, have. Andrew Cuomo might be loving all of this, but I think it is safe to say that Rob Astorino is not, especially when former Republican New York Governor George Pataki says the Republican challenger has a very legitimate shot. Mr. Astorino joins us right now. Sir, very good to have you. What do you think about the fact that you can't progress when the money just doesn't arrive?
Hey, Neil, how are you? Well, first of all, I think Governor Pataki was correct when he said that we do have a good chance of winning this race. We have a governor in New York, Andrew Cuomo, who is under federal investigation by the U.S. Attorney, federal prosecutors looking into this governor for potential corruption, for obstruction of justice, for witness tampering, and shutting down the Anti-Corruption Commission which he established. And the Attorney General deputized the members of that panel to do independent investigations, subpoena power, etc. And all of a sudden, when the breadcrumbs on investigations into corruption were going into the governor's office and towards him and his staff and his friends and his allies, the governor abruptly shut this thing down. And so he is under a very dark cloud right now. He refuses to speak. He refuses to debate whether or not he is not doing that because he's embarrassed of his record of raising taxes, of having the worst economic outlook as a state, as the worst business climate.
Well, maybe he doesn't want to give you any. Maybe he doesn't want to give you any legitimacy.
I think his criminal defense attorneys are telling him, don't speak. You can't speak. And that's probably a heavy burden for him because he could indict himself with some of his public comments.
But do you think he's just sitting on a big lead and hoping that you don't take advantage of it? Because thus far, for whatever reason, Rob, you've not been able to take advantage of it. In fact, that was one of the reasons why we're told Governor Christie said you were a lost cause. What do you think of that? Did that bother you?
Well, first, in all due respect to Governor Christie, he doesn't know New York politics, and Governor Christie was down in the polls, and Governor Christie got support from the RGA, who came in and pushed him over the top. And, you know, in Westchester County, where I am the county executive, 1 million people, it's 2-to-1 Democrat. I was outspent 5-to-1, almost 6 million to 1.5 million or so in 2009. And 30 points down in the polls this time in 2009, and I won by 13 points.
No, there's no doubt. I mean, that was one of the arguments Pataki raised when he was with us, that you know, he too was down almost as much as you are in the polls now and went on to win and beat his father, Andrew Cuomo's father. But why do you think that, in the eyes of many, Chris Christie has it out for you? Because he didn't only refuse to give you money, he dissed you.
Well, I don't think he's got it out for me. I do believe we're going to get a...
He didn't say he had any chance.
And he probably regrets those particular words, but I do believe we're going to get a lot of support.
No, wait a minute. Has he called you to say he regrets those words?
No, he hasn't. But, you know, we've got Carly Fiorina, who has joined the team, Women for Astorino. She's going to be doing fundraising and campaigning for me. Governor Perry and also Governor Jindal is coming in, and maybe some other governors. Governor Walker has already been in. We're now getting some of the Republicans, some of the big donors in New York City who are coming off the sidelines, because what is interesting in the polls, and I really don't believe in polls at this point because we're not voting tomorrow, but you can see in the polls, Governor Cuomo has very, very soft support. People are not thrilled with him. They're saying the state is not going in the right direction. His job approval is plummeting. You can also see, obviously, with the black clouds of this corruption scandal hanging over him, with federal prosecutors maybe indicting him at some point. I mean, there's some heavy things hanging over this governor. And we have a state now that has failed to get out of the losing column under this governor,
where we should be one of the most
prominent states in America.
I'm sorry, Rob. Maybe to that point you can turn things around. But in the meantime, let's say Chris Christie goes ahead and runs for president. Would you support him whether you win or lose? Would you support him?
Well, certainly if he were the Republican candidate for president, our nominee, I most certainly would. And I think he's done a decent job as governor. His comments were not helpful. But I do think at the end of the day, the RGA is going to get very involved in this race. You're going to see these polls close dramatically in the next 2 months. Look, you know, it's August. There's still a lot of people right now who are at a beach or a lake or somewhere other than where they normally would be. because Labor Day hasn't approached. But in a week, when everything gets back to normal, the kids go back to school, people are going to start focusing on that. And when they see, and you can see this in the polls too, when people have heard of the Moreland Commission scandal and what the governor is facing right now with potential indictments or federal prosecutors, it's an 8-point race. When people start focusing on the economy in this state and the lack of jobs and the highest taxes and all that other stuff, it's a very close race.
And it's still early. It is still early. Rob
and it's still very early.
Thank you very much. Good seeing you. By the way, we did put out a call to Governor Cuomo. He has yet to respond.